हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम करेंगे डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स ऑफ व्यू इन द पोएम। ये 45 यूनिट है, MEG 1 है एंड ब्लॉक 9 है, मॉडर्निस्ट पोएट्री पोएट। लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ। डिफरेंट पॉइंट्स ऑफ व्यू इन द पोएम। इन हिज essay on William Blake, his means T.S. Eliot. In T.S. Eliot's essay on William Blake, जो कि पोइट रहे हैं 18th सेंचुरी के, मैंने वीडियो बनाए हैं। इसके 4 पार्ट्स हैं विलियम ब्लेक पे। तो उन्होंने लिखा था इन द सेक्रेड बुक, इन हिज एसे ऑन विलियम ब्लेक, इन द सेक्रेड बुक एलियट राइट्स, यू कैन नॉट क्रिएट अ वेरी लार्ज पोएम विदाउट इंट्रोड्यूसिंग अ मोर इम्पर्सनल व्यू और स्प्लिटिंग इट अप इंटू वेरियस पर्सनैलिटीज़। मीन्स एक तो जो है बहुत लंबी जो पोएम है उसको आप नहीं बना सकते अपने विदाउट इंट्रोड्यूसिंग अ मोर इम्पर्सनल व्यूज़। जो अपने पर्सनल व्यूज़ आपको डालने पड़ते हैं, तभी लॉन्ग पोएम बनती है। और स्प्लिटिंग इट अप इनटू वेरियस पर्सनैलिटीज, उसको डिफरेंट पर्सनैलिटीज़ में आप स्प्लिट नहीं कर सकते हैं। थॉट प्रोसेस एक ही होना चाहिए, एक ही थीम होना चाहिए, तो आपकी काफ़ी लंबी पोएम बन सकती है। The Wasteland is a poem that includes a number of fragmentary monologues of several figures. ये एक ऐसी पोएम है जिसमें कि नंबर ऑफ फ्रेगमेंट्री मोनोलॉग्स हैं, छोटे छोटे मोनोलॉग्स हैं, कई फिगर्स के मोनोलॉग्स हैं। लेकिन वही मैं बोल रही हूँ कि इसमें थीम जो है वो सेम है। द डिफरेंट वॉइसेस एंड शिफ्टिंग पॉइंट्स ऑफ व्यू merge together in a manner that makes it difficult for the reader to distinguish one from the other. For example, it is not easy to identify and segregate the many speaking voices in the burial of the dead, जो कि पार्ट है इसका. It is equally hard to make a difference between the I and you. Means first person singular and you means second personal singular. Of the several narrators, फिर से पढ़ती हूँ मैं. It is equally hard to make a difference between I and you of the several narrators who project various points of view of the poet of the wasteland. Then I, of the fire sermon, mingles with the fisher king of the legend of the Holy Grail, and the Ferdinand of Shakespeare's Tempest. The self is not, therefore, a single entity, but a shifting plurality of many voices, of all whom together speak in the objective voice of Tiresias, the central figure in the wasteland. ये जो मैं रीड कर रही हूँ ना, इसको आपको आई थिंक 2-3 बार सुनना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद सारी चीज़ें क्लियर होंगी. There is great piancy in the voices of female figures. Piancy means sadness, who speak freely of their loneliness and fear. Among them we have the hyacinth girl, Philomela, जिसका नाम है Philomela, the Thames daughter, the woman at the pub, and the sophisticated lady in a game of chess. The satirical tone of the apparently impersonal Tiresias, the chief narrator, is influenced by an allusion to the tragic rape of Philomela, who manifests the recurring images of women as victim in the wasteland. The objects of Eliot's irony are not only women in general, but also the meaningless man and woman relationships, such as those of Earl of Leicester and the Queen Elizabeth I, the clerk and the typist, the rich man and their girlfriends. The Wasteland is a remarkable poem in which several points of view merge together to project a single central voice, which belongs as much to Tiresias as to the poet himself. The most significant point of view emerging out of the Wasteland is that of its central voice, which is the professing voice of Tiresias, who is a seer in spite of being physically blind. Seer means prophet. Although there is a character, but only a spectator, he is the most important figure in the poem. uniting in himself all the others. As the one eyed merchant merges with the Phoenician sailor, and the latter are not separate from the Ferdinand, Prince of Naples. So all the women are one woman, and the two sexes meet in Tiresias. What he says is, in a sense, what the poem is all about. Eliot admits as much in his note to the poem. Since it is evident that Tiresias is a possible mouthpiece of the poet, he also provides the connecting link between the various parts of the poem, lending it a unity of perception so important in the context of the form and meaning of the wasteland. Now we are doing myth, imagery, and symbolism. The first line of the wasteland, April is the cruelest month, is an inversion of the popular myth that April is a time of warmth, love, and joy. The the Christians connected with Easter and the resurrection of Christ. In the fertility myths, the coming of the spring is associated with the growth of potency and fertility in mankind, animals, and the earth, the trees and plants drawing life giving sap from the land through their roots, grow leaves and flowers in their branches. The flowers eventually develop into fruits with seeds that are promise of the life to come in the following years. But these things are anticipated in Eliot's poem with fear rather than hope, and thus April is cruel rather than kind. Tiresias observes with dismay, means udasinta se, the coming of April and its perverse effect on the people of the wasteland. They feared the onset of the season of life giving rain, since they are incapable of enjoying the mysterious process of the regeneration of the earth. They preferred the cold of the winter to the warmth of the summer. To them, winter is a symbol of spiritual decay, of an animalistic life that involves merely eating, sleeping, bleeding, and breeding, which they seem to prefer to a meaningful life of spirituality and thought. Such a way of life of survival by instinct is contrasted by Eliot with April, the popular symbol of growth and regeneration. The myths and symbols of fertility and sterility are central to the first part of the wasteland. These are noticed in the images of the hyacinth girl, Madame Sosostris. मतलब images किस किस की है? Hyacinth girl, Madame Sosostris, or the Phoenician sailor and the corpse in the garden, which are linked to the speculations on life, life in death, death in life, decay and renewal, winter and spring, memory and desire, past and present. The fertility theme is projected through the symbolism of spring rain, wet hair, vegetation, and flowers. At the same time, it is contrasted with the dryness of the arid landscape. A biblical allusion, Old Testament जो कि chapter 37 है, a biblical allusion again highlights the barrenness of the wasteland. The dead trees provide no shelter, the dry stones give no sound of water. Caught between two shadows of morning and evening, of youth and age, the mankind is haunted by the fear of mortality and doom. The two episodes of love in the burial of the death is of the dead. The two episodes of love in the burial of the dead are studies in contrast, symbolizing the gulf separating the ecstasy of love from the frustration in love. The hyacinth girl standing in rain with flowers in her arms is an image of youthful aspiration and passion that is bound to have a tragic end. That is how Eliot, the consummate poet, conveys his impression of the frustrations suffered by his contemporary generation. The Sweeney images, Sweeney image, the Sweeney image, which should be related to Sweeney agonistus. अच्छा ये थोड़ा सा लंबा है. The Sweeney images stresses the mental paralysis of humanity since it can neither understand nor speak about the terrible state in which it finds itself in the modern world of the 20th century. The professing tarot cards of Madame Sosostris are now used for vulgar fortune telling, which marks the decline of values in the modern European society. Here it should be noted that Eliot makes extensive use of the pack of tarot cards as a symbolic structural device in the Wasteland. The image of the drowned Phoenician sailor is linked with the allusion in The Tempest, in which a character named Ariel informs Ferdinand, the Prince of Naples, of his father's death by drowning in a shipwreck. The symbolic pattern of these images is repeated in the fourth part of The Wasteland, Death by Water. Eliot, as he admits in his notes to the poem, uses ritualistic and mythic allusion in The Wasteland. All the figures depicted in the tarot pack of cards symbolically unite in the dominating personage of Tiresias. He is the central consciousness, the various episodes from whose experience make up the poem. The unreal city with its flowing crowd under the brown winter fog is a merging together of Baudelaire's Paris with Eliot's London. It could as well be Boston, Chicago, Moscow, or even Srinagar in Kashmir in December or January. In this city, men and women are ghostly figures without a vital social life. They have no permanent moral values, only pretensions and make believe. The crowds flowing over London Bridge every day, morning and evening, are not independent human beings, but the slavish victim of a mechanical way of life, bereft of the vitality of real living. हाँ, कई बार तो लाइफ ऐसी लगती है कि एक तरह से मशीन की तरह है. वही चीज़ें हम रोज़ करते हैं. स्पिरिचुअलिटी की तरफ बहुत कम हम लोगों का ध्यान रहता है ना, लेकिन होना चाहिए स्पिरिचुअल आदमी को. कोई भी चीज़ हमें खुशी नहीं दे सकती. सॉरी मैं आउट ऑफ द वे जाके बात कर रही हूँ. कई बार क्या होता है ना, हम लोग ढूंढते हैं कि खुशी क्या है, व्हाट इज़ द मीनिंग ऑफ हैप्पीनेस, कैसे हमें हैप्पीनेस मिलती है. लेकिन हमें किसी भी चीज़ से, हमें खाने से, हमें कहीं जाने से, घूमने से, इन सब से हैप्पीनेस नहीं मिलती है. स्पिरिचुअलिटी एक ऐसी चीज़ है जिससे कि आदमी को हैप्पीनेस मिलती है. ओके, the planting of a corpse in the modern wasteland is not a sacred ritual, but its antithesis, comparable to the action of a dog first burying and then digging up a bone. The dog digs up the bone in order to prevent it from blossoming into new life. It is obvious that Eliot deliberately uses symbolic and mythical imagery and literary allusions for expressing his deeply thought out meaning through a well-ordered artistic pattern, which is his poem, The Wasteland. What are the different voices that hear in The Wasteland? The central voice that we hear in The Wasteland is that of Tiresias, the blind prophet. In his voice are combined the voices of other figures, such as the Hyacinth Girl, the Thames Daughters, Philomela, the woman at the pub, Madame Sosostris, with her pack of tarot cards, Ferdinand, Prince of Naples, and the sophisticated lady in a game of chess. At the spiritual level, we hear the voices of Christ, Saint Augustine, and Buddha. The literary voices are those of Chaucer, Dante, Spenser, and Shakespeare. Now, second question है, with what European cities could one relate the unreal city of the poem and why? The unreal city with its flowing crowds under a brown winter fog is a merging together of Baudelaire's Paris with Eliot's London. In this city, men and women are ghostly figures without a vital social life and उनकी मशीन की तरह उनकी लाइफ बन चुकी है. चलो, थैंक यू सो मच. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में ये जो कि पार्ट 5 होगा, इसमें हम समरी ऑफ द यूनिट करेंगे. थैंक यू सो मच. प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल एंड शेयर माई वीडियो.